the lack of synergy and lack of credible information in the area of asset recovery and management is of a great concern to Nigerians and to many people, including the international community. And that is why today we want to focus on that with hope that the media will further investigate and actually carry out intensive investigation in the recovered asset so far. So, ladies and gentlemen, as part of our long-standing efforts in CISLAC to curtail grand corruption, and of course my personal quest to improve the quality of governance in Nigeria, it is my pleasure to address you today. It is to the occasion of the launch of a workshop for media on investigating asset recovery and management of the looted asset, a topic which I consider for utmost importance. Asset recovery shows the public and also to the international community how Nigeria closed corruption cases, including repatriation of the corruption victims. So as head of CISLAC and Transparency International, I would like to use this medium to comment on recent development around asset recovery and issues connected to these problems. International financial intelligence shows that around $18 billion is lost abroad every year to tax evasion, laundering of money, and other stashing of illegal proceeds out of Nigeria. Unfortunately, this amount puts the country at the forefront in Africa. We are the worst illicit financial flow offenders in Africa. That is the reason why we cannot see the needed development in Nigeria. Because if money are meant for dealing with insecurity, if money are meant to help address the educational challenges in the country, if money are meant to help deal with issues of healthcare system, including even the COVID-19, if money is meant to help food infrastructure that will even enable farmers to bring their products or to enhance their farming activities in the country, are all diverted and stolen or misappropriated, then there's no surprise that we find ourselves in this state of coma in Nigeria. Elaborated international fraud schemes involving almost always reputable law firms and other middlemen are used to rob Nigerian citizens of billions of dollars that will be used to counter abject poverty, insecurity, and abysmal service delivery. A case in point is the ongoing corruption in the investigator-state arbitration between the Process and Industrial Development Limited, popularly known as P&ID, versus the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is currently battling the arbitration proceedings conducted within the United Kingdom jurisdiction. If lost, Nigerian taxpayers will lose $6.6 billion plus 7% interest per annum against it for damage in favor of P&ID. This is very scary, given the economic crisis we find ourselves, given the state of constant and permanent borrowing that we do not even see the results. And if you are going to be fined for this large chunk of money because of negligence, because of connivance, because of corruption, because of lack of patriotism, then the country and the people of Nigeria will suffer greatly. This case has not been concluded yet. However, some critical questions beg for answers. Firstly, who is in government that is responsible for signing such a risky and potentially catastrophic contract within an entity with no track record of similar contracts. Question number 2. Why did the Nigerian defense come so late, given that the contract was signed many years ago? Question number 3. Given the seriousness of this case, how come that Nigerian defense appeared so totally incompetent or even suspiciously negligent for years? Number 4 question that we are asking. The P&ID case was used against ex-EFCC chairman Magu. Has his EFCC negligence been proven, or is the responsibility for the case somewhere else? We need to find out this. Perhaps with the political leadership and not law enforcement, maybe. So, CISLAC, together with other international partners, has just published an elaborate publication which will hopefully help in addressing some of these critical questions. We will also be sharing with you this elaborate publication that we have published, to show you the level of incompetency, the suspicious corruption, and lack of patriotism involved in handling this case. So we published this document so that Nigerian people, including the media, will see how some public officials are using their position to create additional hardship and trouble for Nigerians. We will share these documents with all of you. We urgently need more media coverage on these similar cases, because if we don't expose them, then nobody is going to know. The public will not know this. So that is why it is important that the media carry out investigative, action to expose those behind this sabotage against Nigerian people. To be fair, some success has been achieved in recent years in regard to the recovery of assets. Only 2 weeks ago, the 4.2 million Ibori loot was returned by the UK. While Nigerian authorities have made some commendable gains, its advocacy for the speedy return of the recovered asset has lost moral high ground. The executive and legislators have been unable to or unwilling to pass and enact domestic legal framework, popularly known as the Proceeds of Crime Act, in managing international and domestically recovered assets. Thirdly, or unfortunately, our international partners are not convinced that recovered assets will not be relooted again. This is coming from the experience that we have seen. Since during Obasanjo, assets have been recovered, and you cannot see any evidence on how well it's been managed. The first Abacha loot that came, I participated in what the then Minister of Finance said they were going to use the money for. We went around various communities where they say they are going to site projects. Community people did not see anything. And so much recovery have been made locally that Nigerians have no any information whatsoever on how it is being utilized. So that is why even the international community are very suspicious that you recover from yesterday looter and today looter will loot and with impunity. But we as responsible and patriotic Nigerians, we have a stake in our country. We must at all times raise these issues and demand accountability on the use or management of our recovered assets. So this lacuna in the management of recovered assets was seen glaringly in the recent agreement between the federal government and the state government of Delta State as to who owns the repatriated 4.2 million Ivory loads. It will interest you that some Nigerian judicial officers, they actually exonerated Ibori. They say he has no any case. And he went to London. He was not only arrested, tried, prosecuted, jailed. Now we are talking about returning the money. So you can see how judicial corruption is also killing Nigeria. That is why we are calling on the judiciary to also be at the forefront of the fight against corruption. Because once we lose judicial credibility, then we are in trouble. And that is why many Nigerians who have issues, they will rather leave their case to God rather than go to court or judiciary. Because if you do not have sufficient money to give to buy justice, you will not simply get any justice. And there's no way, as a responsible nation, these practices will continue, and then you expect international community to respect you. So those judges who have, in their own wisdom, exonerated Ibori, they should put their faces on shame, because it is the same case, it is the same issue that they say he has no case. He went to another country, they tried him and found him guilty, and now Nigerian government is celebrating getting the money. So why didn't Nigerian government in the first place objected to that kind of judgment that was given in the first place? There was no political will to do that. Foreign assets recovered by Nigerian government did not compare to the amount of domestically seized and confiscated assets, which include seized buildings, vehicles, and others, including jewelries, gold, silver, expensive cars, and cash that we saw. I recall when Al Jazeera interviewed me when they confiscated Dizani, golds and dollars. Where are those dollars? At least we saw them displayed. We saw the golds, silvers displayed. And today, where are those things? Including so many of other Nigerians, both known and unknown, that law enforcement agents have actually, taken those things in their possession. Where are the evidence that they had been judiciously used? Government must come clean. Government must explain to Nigerians where are those things. Those who have looted and bought those properties, they will not be able to raise any issue because they have no moral justification to do that. It's a stolen asset. So, but since there's a trust, because governments preside the affairs of the country on behalf of Nigerians on the basis of trust, and they are trusted with those recovered things, we need to see those items, and we need to see information where those items are. We need to have the data bank of all the recovered assets, at least, from the time when Obasanjo came to date. Government is a continuous thing. Therefore, what happened during Obasanjo, during Eradua, during Jonathan, and now under Muhammad Buhari, we need information, detailed information on all the recovered assets, locally and domestically. This is the only way the fight against corruption that this government is talking about will be taken serious. You cannot be doing things in secrecy. You cannot keep people in limbo. You cannot continue to talk about you are fighting corruption, and yet you are not open, and you are not, interested to create a enabling legal framework that will ensure that individual did not do wrong things. It is important. It is a challenge for the National Assembly, for the executive to wake up and do the needful so that we can gain more confidence and respect and restore our lost glory from the international community. The international community is laughing at us because each time the government spokesperson, they come to dismiss that there is no corruption, or what the Nigerian people are crying over the corruption that they found themselves. Some few people in government who have no shame, who have no fear of God, will come to tell Nigerians that everything is okay, that they should not worry about what we are saying. But Nigerians every day are facing these challenges. Now, to even get anything in this country, whether it is admission, whether it is job, whether it is attention for medical health care, you have to pay a bribe. And yet some people in government, they are telling us that, they are telling Nigerians that they should not mind us, that what we are saying is not truth. But Nigerians are the one crying every day, seeing this naked corruption. And because some of the people in government are beneficiary, because if you are not benefiting from the looting and the level which brought us to the level of insecurity we find ourselves today, because when resources are provided to ensure security and safety, and some wicked and patriotic people diverted that money, then you put Nigerians' life at risk. We have seen how this proliferation of small arms, of course, is no longer small arm now, because the kind of arms that we are seeing in the hands of criminals, in the hands of so-called bandits and insurgents, even the Nigerian security official, they appear not to have such kind of weapons. Now the question is how did those weapons enter Nigeria? Because they are not locally made. Who was responsible at the border, from the air border to the land border to the sea border? How comes those things enter Nigeria? We need to investigate. Journalists, please, you need to help Nigerians to expose those behind allowing criminals to penetrate Nigeria with all of these kind of dangerous weapons that is killing and making life miserable and unbearable for everybody. The level of sophisticated weapons that we are seeing in this country should have been used by the Nigerian security, not by bandits, not by criminals, not by insurgents. But because of corruption, it has been compromised. You have a situation whereby some state governors, all they do is to mediate or to continue to, settle those they consider to be maybe so-called bandits. I don't understand why government officials, some state governors, will be advocating for amnesty for criminals. And yet, you as a human rights activist, as a journalist, when you come to say this thing is not proper, then you will now be the target. You will now be the one to be arrested. You will now be the one to be in prison. You will be the one to be humiliated. I think it is important that some of the people ruling this country, they need to remember that we are in democracy and there should be respect for rule of law. I can't understand why bandits are the one now that should be pampered. Even those so-called radicalized Boko Haram so-called repentant, we have seen what they have done. They've gone back to community and attacked the people again because the whole policy is faulty. You did not invest enough reconciliation. You did not, heal the community of the atrocities that these people have committed. Now you brought them back to the community and, in fact, give them even, resources. While the community that have been unleashed with terror, they are still languishing, suffering. Something is wrong, and that is why we are talking about security corruption, defense procurement corruption. All these are all part of the crisis we find ourselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is very clear that Nigerian public need to be convinced that the recovery are not just another loot used for political survival and self-enrichment of those in power. It is difficult to ascertain the level of success in Nigeria's asset recovery due to lack of transparency. There is no central register or database for all the recovered assets. Nigeria lacks a proper legislative framework for monitoring managing and utilizing recovered assets from the proceeds of crime, like I had mentioned earlier on. We express ultimate disappointment in the current existing process where different institutions, from ICPC, Code of Conduct, NDLA, EFCC, police, that are working without synergy. There's no way you can achieve successful asset recovery without synergy. If everyone is recovering and no information, no synergy, no coordination, there's no way Nigerian will be kept in dark. And because these agencies, they don't come to say this is what we have recovered and this is what we have used the recovered asset for. Nobody from all these agencies have been able to do that. And ideally, in an ideal transparent places, you should have been able to even have a website where all these agencies would have itemized all the items recovered, including the money, to say this is what we have recovered so far and this is what we have used it for, But for now, it is a discretionary thing. And even though I know that recently the Minister of Justice has set up a committee that will even sell some of the assets, and this is also coming as a result of the cry by civil society that, look, stop this secret, selling up this thing, because you need to be transparent, you need to publish it for people to actually, express interest, and there must be proper evaluation, not, a secret evaluation, public evaluation of this asset, so that people will not be selling things to themselves because they are in the position of authority. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the government, we noted, also violates international agreement that they helped to put in place. The Global Forum for Asset Recovery, which we call GIPA principle, agreed and signed in 2017 in Washington, D.C., and London Anti-Corruption Summit in 2016, both clearly stated parameters for asset recovery and asset recovery management, which the same administration refuses to implement. You remember, the president of Nigeria was in London. Transparency International, we organized the London Anti-Corruption together with the British government, and the president of Nigeria was invited. And you remember when the Prime Minister of British was referring to Nigeria as fantastically corrupt country. Our president, Muhammadu Buhari, was in that conference, and Transparency International, stood behind him when he showed and demonstrated interest to actually deal with issues of corruption in Nigeria, including beneficial ownership, including, OGP commitment, and so many things, including asset recovery. From 2016 to date, from our tracker of monitoring the commitment made by the President Muhammadu Buhari, we still have a long way as a nation. So we are calling on Nigerian authority that it is important when you make commitment, when you commit the country to doing something, you comply with those kind of things, or put in place system and mechanism that will ensure what you said is actualized. Otherwise, international community would disrespect us if the whole president will go to a conference, make commitment, commit to certain principles, and then 5 years now, right? 5 years. 5 years after, those things are not yet in place. I know some, people, some so-called spokesperson, in government, who are confusing their roles and responsibility, because this day you don't even know who is the Minister of Information and who is the spokesperson of the President. Issues that concern the nation that the Minister of Information is supposed to be talking about, you will see somebody jumping that is the spokesperson of the President, that will be talking. So lack of synergy and coordination even among themselves. But they are quick to come and attack civil society, especially the anti-corruption and human rights organizations. So each time, human rights issues come up, each time corruption issues come up, you will see these people, who sometimes they have forgotten that sooner or later, they will leave that place. And how will they face Nigerian people when they manipulated and fabricated and lie and dismiss the fact that we are having challenges? I don't know where they are going to put their faces, because it will be full of shame. Because by the time they are done with their tenure, with their time, who consistently provoke Nigerians' feelings and emotion, saying that issues of human rights violation, issues of corruption in Nigeria is not an issue, that they dismiss whatever human rights organizations or anti-corruption organizations in the country are talking about. I wonder where they will put their faces when they leave office, because clearly what they are doing is even undermining the government itself. An honest government, especially a government that says they want to fight corruption, if people who say that there are issues of corruption, what we expect them to do is to say, okay, we will want to see and further investigate this allegation and these claims. But when you outrightly condemn and dismiss, then you have lost the opportunity to correct mistakes or to correct some evil sin that is going on. So we want to call on the government, and I want to particularly call on the president, that some of these people who are speaking on his behalf, they are actually undermining him, and they are actually making him unpopular. They are making him to look as if, is out there to deceive Nigerians. So the president must caution, if he wants his integrity, if he wants to be respected, he must caution those people who are jumping, in the name of his, the so-called spokesperson of the president, who are completing roles and responsibility. You need to caution them so that Nigerians and international community can actually even return their respect to the nation and to himself. As it is now, this so-called spokesperson, they have actually created and make the country to be, a country, mockery. Because when something is clearly blue, this so-called spokesperson will come and say it is red. This is terrible. This is not how a country that is supposed to be fighting corruption will be doing. So, again, we want to also say that we want to urge the implementation of the following recommendation. Passing of a legal framework around the management and utilization of assets recovered. This will restore respect and integrity of the government's fight against corruption. We call on the enactment of the Proceed for Crime legislation with no excuses. The delay in passing this legislation, which the Nigerian government committed to in 2016, like I mentioned, greatly undermines asset recovery and management process in Nigeria. It cost Nigerian public billions in lost opportunity as international partners refuse to engage and domestic recovery continue to be mismanaged or worse. Number 2, the establishment of a central data bank or database for all recovered assets. In order to ensure transparency and accountability, we call on the government to establish a database that will contain details of recovered assets, including details of persons from whom they were recovered and how the recovered assets are utilized. This database should be publicly accessible and should be containing all interim and final forfeiture of different types of movable and immovable assets seized by different agencies. Except of empty statement from the Ministry of Justice, we are yet to see some concrete results after many years of extensive international domestic efforts. We cannot continue this way. You cannot continue to give excuses, to make promises. This is not giving the country respect. If you say you're going to do this, you need to do it. If there are challenges, you need to explain to Nigerians and the international community, these are my challenges. But when you keep quiet, it tends to amount to just, taking Nigerians and the international community for granted, and you expect them to respect you and to cooperate with you? No way. Inclusion of civil society in recovered asset return and management. It is important that independent civil society organizations, including victims groups, representatives, are enabled to participate in asset recovery process, especially in the process of monitoring and deciding how recovered assets are utilized. If truly, because civil society groups are the champion, are the one that goes around all over the world to demand and agitate for the returns of Nigerian assets. Without being immodest, I will say that I have been to the United States severally to canvass for the return of Nigerian assets. I was in the European Parliament, where European parliamentarian showed me the document that European Parliament actually passed resolution to return assets of Africa, including Nigeria. Till today, Nigerian government has never gone there to even know the kind of asset that Nigerians have looted and kept in Europe. Yet there is a resolution from the European Parliament. Our counterpart legislator, National Assembly, did not take action on that. Our government executive did not take action on that. We also been severally to UK Parliament to debate and discuss and demand that returning asset of Nigeria is must. And we can see some success story from it, from our advocacy. CISLAC and so many other organizations, Transparency International UK, Global Witness, and many other civil society organizations, we have been going to the UK to insist that Nigerian asset must be returned. And therefore, it is only legitimate and morally right that this same civil society, who you are not paying them to do this work, but they are doing it out of their patriotic, zeal, it is only proper that they also, suggest and be allowed to recommend on the best way to compensate the victims of this looting. So if you recover this money and you go and plunk it where, at the end of the day, there will not be any visible project, there will not be any meaningful project that will benefit the victims of the corruption, then you have actually, frustrated the effort that the civil society have put. We have been to so many places where we have seen even the government of those countries are consulting with the civil society. I will give you an example. In 2019, we were in Abu Dhabi when we went for UNCA conference. American government delegates, including state assistant, secretary assistant of the United States, met with some few of us around the world to more of like inform us or discuss with us or at least dialogue with us on their own agenda on asset recovery. Our Nigerian government did not even bother to talk to anybody from Nigeria. I was in that conference, and high-powered Nigerian delegation were there because of the arrogance and because they think that the civil society doesn't matter. But yet, a country as powerful as America is consulting with us. I was part of that meeting. In fact, we were just two from Nigeria, Sheriff representative and myself. The rest are from the other continent of the world. The whole American government was consulting with us, but yet our own country here, they don't want, because we say that try to be transparent, try to be open, try to be credible in the way you do your things. That's the offense. That's why civil society, credible civil society are not being included. Sometimes they can go and find some mushroom groups who are their own stooge to say that they are civil society groups. We have no problem. Let them do. But we want, what we are interested is, do the right thing. We don't need to be there. I personally, I don't need to be there. Even if you say I should go, I will not go. But because I prefer to give my contribution from this side rather than to go there and be consumed by the practices there. So all we are saying is that civil society and the victims of this corruption need to be also consulted when government is putting this recovered asset for project. Sometimes the project you want to do might not be useful to the people. What the people probably they are in need of is water. Some of them they are in need of hospital. Some of them probably they need to enhance the school. All the primary school and secondary school around the country, they are all in state of coma. They are dilapidated. So we would like to also ensure that this meeting or this press conference is will help to escalate these problems that are enumerated, so that the recovered asset in this country will be properly utilized. I'm happy that the new EFCC chairman is out there, has rolled his agenda, which will include effective asset recovery plan. We in CISLAC, Transparency International, we support him. We will support him to succeed on that. We have been providing support to various government agencies in that with credible information, on that, and even advocacy and lobbying in various places. So we will also extend this support to the current EFCC chair, because we believe that we need to give our support to any willing government agencies that is serious and that is committed in the fight against corruption. So Nigerian government need to look back at those commitments they made, because people are tracking them. All the presidents that attended that conference, we have a chart. If you go to our website, I think it's there in our website. If you go to our website, you will see the tracker. We have been tracking and monitoring the progress of all the commitment that the president of Nigeria made in that conference. And I urge all of you to check and see by yourself where we are on those things. Some of the states, they also have public procurement law. Some of them, they even have fiscal responsibility law. But we need to continue to encourage states to also begin to replicate some of this, anti-corruption legal framework. And that is why it's so annoying that you have a government, that control more than half of the states. The party, the ruling party control more than half of the states in the country, and they have not been able to replicate or advise them to also copy what the ruling party is doing at the national level. So it is even a challenge to the ruling party that they have governors that are not even in agreement or in tandem, with what the federal government is doing. So there is need for the federal government under the ruling party to inculcate these ideas of establishing or replicating anti-corruption bodies in their state. That, in that case, then you are ready to fight corruption. You cannot say that you are fighting corruption and your states, your local government, some of their ministers, even some of the government officials, they don't even believe in what you are doing. So there's no way you can achieve fight against corruption. This government had actually, arrested, prosecuted some people in the past that they say they have stolen money meant for procuring arms. Some of them, as we enter 2019 election, they were forgiven and even given senatorial seats. Some of them were given all sorts of, position. So this is why it's very, very confusing when they say they are fighting corruption. The same people they are accused of looting arms meant to fight insurgency and Boko Haram and criminality. They ended up rewarding them with a ticket. So at which point were they publicly, judiciously acquitted from the allegation? I think it is important that we get to know this information. If you parade people and castigate them that they have stolen money for arms procurement, you do not take legal process to clear them, and you only reward them with a ticket to contest election or to just appoint them. That's not a very good, thing. So during Jonathan, there has been allegation on the arm purchase. This government, Nigerians have been asking, where are these arms? because now bandits, they have more sophisticated weapons all over. Criminals, insurgents, Boko Haram, name them all, militant, they have more dangerous, sophisticated weapons. So where are the weapons that these billions of dollars have been used for? So I think for us in CISLAC, we have been working on defense procurement to ensure transparency and accountability in the procurement of arms in this country. And I can tell you that this allegation of missing funds would definitely be investigated after this government. Just like they investigated the previous regime, another regime will come and investigate them. Because if Nigerians did not see these arms and did not see the welfare improved of our security people, look, beyond just the investigation, God will also not forgive anybody who has stolen this money or diverted this money or mismanaged this money, because our young security officers, their lives have been put to risk. They recruit people and they send them to go and face these dangerous people without enabling arms or equipment and without even welfare. Many of them, when they get wounded, they get abandoned. Many of them, when they die, their families struggle to even get their entitlement. This is why you see recently when they wanted to do recruitment, many people did not go, because you go there without enabling facilities, you are just going to be a victim, easy victim of these criminals. So, and when we are telling them that, look, do something about this, I remember the former chief of air staff, they were part of the people who were castigating us. But see how is local criminals just ended and terminated his life. The former chief of air staff, what's his name? Badi. See how Boko Haram run him out of his own village. But look at the kind of money he left behind. What are these Nigerian officials going to do with this money? This is not money for just eating or meeting, basic thing of life. It's a psychological, mental thing that some of them are having, accumulating, collecting money, stealing money, leaving people in abject poverty. The former NNPC GM, his cousins and his relatives are dying. They could not even pay school fees. This man was burying dollars in the house while his relatives are even dying, not even the neighbors. So this kind of wickedness that some of these people are having, is only God that will judge them, since the judicial system, is making it impossible to give them the required justice.